Some of the, well, to start off with, about this time period, late in the 1900s and late in the 1800s and early in the 1900s, artists left realism and went toward what you call modernism, or impressionism, abstract painting. Picasso is famous for his cubism, where you try to paint emotions, paint feelings, paint moods. Literature also tried to portray moods, emotions, feelings, and the like. Some of the more famous paintings of the time were Van Gogh. I've heard that name pronounced Van Gogh. Picasso. Now, Van Gogh painted a whole lot more than Starry Night. But Starry Night is his most famous painting, and your book shows a picture of that painting on page 603. We can look at the painting and tell by the position of the planet Venus. I mean, we know what hill he was standing on when he painted it. And, but by noting the position of the moon and the planet Venus, we can tell which night he painted it. Again, the moon and planet Venus have a regular pattern, and astronomers can look back the clock and figure, hey, planet Venus would have been in such a position on that night relative to the moon, and we know what night he painted it. And if you look at the personal lives of these men over, again, Van Gogh's life left a whole lot to be desired on a personal note. He wound up dying in poverty, and his paintings might have been forgotten about, except a bunch of people grabbed onto them and began to trade them for higher and higher and higher prices as his name became more and more famous. Speaking of personal lives of some artists, something I did not mention, Beethoven. What do you know about Beethoven, if anything? He was what?
He was a composer?
Yeah. He was a musical composer, but he had one big problem that musical composers don't need. That he was deaf. Now, I pointed to my own ears. Yeah. He was deaf. And he had to shout, hey, please shout, I can't hear you, I'm deaf. Yes, a musical composer who was deaf. But of course, that might have been something he could not help. But in the case of Van Gogh, well, he got to the point in his life where he could not help himself. He gave himself over to drugs, and they wrecked his mind, wrecked his body. Also, something I want to say about the art at the time, functionalism came to be widespread concept in art. Now, functionalism means that any device you use should look artistic, but it should also be functional. Now, it's been 45 years since I took a course in art appreciation, but one thing I learned from that course that stuck with me was art should not have any unnecessary designs to it. I mean, what are they? All right, for instance, a skyscraper. Some of the old first skyscrapers were built were intended to make them look tall by putting a whole bunch of arches on them, pointed arches. But one artist, when he was a young man, watched 45 people die when something that wasn't even necessary, a part of the structure, fell on top of the workers. He said, no, that the skyscraper itself should be its own artwork. And in fact, when I was in school, they used a staple, and they had an old stapler that had a whole bunch of curly cues and a whole bunch of designs and a whole bunch of unnecessary stuff that brought up the price of the stapler. Then they showed the modern stapler, just a simple, smooth, shining design, no frills, no nonsense. Have any of you taken a course in art appreciation? Looks like none of you have. I was going to ask if they still teach this, because I don't know if art is required anymore. We were required to take it. But anyway, all ornamentation should be stripped away, and the art and engineering were thus unified. No nonsense. Now, they departed from this for a while in making automobiles. The automobiles of the 50s had a whole lot of tail fins and a whole lot of bright chrome. Since then, some of this stuff has been eliminated, at least in some cars. All right. Okay,